Oh, hello, people. How's it going? Uh, that brightness is really screwing around with my ability to take a decent picture. But anyway, this is the book that it's trying to show. If you can see it. History of Ojibwe People by William Warren. He was also a Ojibwe. William Warren's History of Ojibwe People. Written in 1852, first published in 1885. Is perhaps the most important history of Ojibwa ever written. Warren, the son of an Ojibwe woman and a white man, collected first-hand descriptions and stories from his relatives, tribal leaders, and acquaintances. He transcribed his oral history in terms that 19th century whites could understand, focusing on warfare, tribal organization, and political leaders. Interspersed among his vivid descriptions of memorial battles remembered. The wealth of information on the Ojibwe people's customs, family life, autonomic system, hunting methods, fur trade, and relations with other tribal groups and with whites. I read this book a long time ago. I would recommend it. I'm only going to show books related to Minnesota that I have on Native Americans on this day of the Indigenous People Day. This is mostly going to be talking about that. I just want to recommend a few books that I have. Now that light is going to drive me crazy. But that's a good book. The other one, this one's very well known. That'd be a way of fixing that problem. I have not read this one, but like Among the Lake Superior Ojibwe, Johann George Cole's classic book on the Ojibwe and Lake Superior is a fascinating study in the contrast of similarities. Its author was an urbane, well-traveled European, a trained ethnologist, and accomplished popular writer. Cole turned his sensitive powers of observation on a nation of people who he found not unlike his own. Prospectively and elegantly, he describes daily life among the Ojibwe, detailing religious practices, legends, foods, games, medicines, home, clothing, and methods of travel, hunting, and fishing. Cole's gentle humor, candor, and his respect for the Ojibwe people anticipate later developments in American ethnology and makes his writing especially appealing to the modern reader. So yeah, I recommend this book. I've got to do something about that. That's going to drive me crazy. I know, you probably don't care. I do. This book is about the Dakota Uprising, of course, or the American Civil War. I don't have a lot of books on Dakota, or actually, those are the only two books I have on the Ojibwe. So this takes place in the one event that forced them out of Minnesota. This is a very good book. And there's another one that I don't have. At the moment, I don't have it. December 26, 1862, on the day after Christmas. No, that's the wrong part. Oh, that's the other book I have. I do have it. I forgot I bought this a few days ago. So, this is about the Dakota Uprising. A very good history. This book is very fair with the fact that we really screwed them up. We really didn't try. We made our own mess, and this is what happens when you don't follow through on your treaties. You have assholes running things who don't care about the Native Americans and pretty much treat them like crap. This is what happens. The other one is the aftermath of that war, and I forgot I had this. I booked this a few days ago. 38 Nooses, Lincoln Little Crow, and the beginning of the frontier ends. In August of 1862, after suffering decades of hardship, broken treaties, and relentless encroachment on their land, the Dakota leader Little Crow, excellent book by the way, reluctantly agreed that his people must go to war. After 6 weeks of fighting, and it was brutal. It was a brutal uprising, and it was not. Both sides were indiscriminate in who they were killing. It became almost borderline genocide. They were trying. It just was. It was a brutal conflict that never should have happened in the first place. Created by a bunch of people who did not give a damn, not except for their own self-interest. After 6 weeks of fighting, the uprising was smashed. Thousands of Indians were taken prisoner by the U.S. Army, and 303 Dakota were sentenced to death. President Lincoln, averted the most devastating period of the Civil War, personally intervened to save the lives of 265 of the condemned men. But in the end, 38 Dakota men would be hanged in the largest government-sanctioned execution in United States history. I haven't read this book, but I have heard good things about it. He's also written a book on Woodrow Wilson, the president, and Charles Lindbergh, which I do have that book, but I haven't had to read this yet. But I forgot I bought this a few days ago. Was it yesterday? I did yesterday. No. Whatever. Well, I buy books, I buy books. This is an excellent book on Little Crow. Oh, I do. I do have one on I forgot his name already. I love that. Particularly when I forget people's names. Sibley. I saw a book on Henry Sibley, but I'm just showing books on the Native American side of it. So anyway, now on to the actual reason I'm doing this interview. I don't have a problem with Indigenous Peoples Day. I have never been a person who's ever really thought much of Columbus Day, mainly because Columbus wasn't actually the first European to step foot on North America. In fact, Christopher Columbus never stepped foot in North America. He stepped foot in the Caribbean. Christopher Columbus did not discover anything. He thought he was trying to find a different route in. He didn't realize he had discovered an entire new continent. But he never set foot on North America. The Vikings did. The Norsemen did. I mean, the Vikings were here a few hundred years before old Chris got here. Now that's interesting. There's even evidence that Chinese got here before Columbus got here by almost 100 years, not quite. Maybe 75 years, somewhere around there. I don't have a problem with Indigenous people. I don't have a problem with studying Native American history and culture, and everything else. What I have a problem with is the whitewashing of Native American history. The almost painting the Native Americans as if somehow these were these angelic beings who never heard a fly, who never did anything until the Europeans showed up. If you read Native American history by Native Americans, you'll find out that they had slaves, they took slaves, they raided each other's camps, they stole from each other, they fought wars, they had territory, ask the Comanches, the Apache, and I'm sure I'm missing somebody. I mean, the Iraqis, the Iroquois didn't like anybody. The Dakota and the Chippewa couldn't stand each other. I hate telling you this, but Lake Mille Lacs used to belong to the Dakota until the Chippewa came along and said, "No, we want that now." So they took it. See, my problem is very simple. Tell both sides of the story of whoever you're talking about. If you're going to tell me about the atrocities committed by this country on the Native Americans, yes, tell me the atrocities. Tell me the parts of American history that deserve to be told. But also, don't tell me that every single person who came from Europe came here to kill a Native American, or they wanted to. Most of the people who came west didn't care. They would like to have just gone someplace. They were told to go west and build a life. It was a clash of cultures. In a lot of ways, the problem with Native Americans and Europeans is it is a very vastly different culture. It was a class of cultures, one technologically so superior to the other one. The inevitable was going to happen. But my point is, if you're going to talk to me about Native Americans and how they lived, tell me both sides of the story. Hey, other than a few tribes that were warlike, most tribes literally did live pretty much well with each other and in themselves. Most tribes didn't go to war with each other. Some tribes went to war with everybody who was around. I mean, it frustrates me when I listen to people talk about all the millions of the Native Americans were killed. There's that meme that's constantly going around, the genocide of 100 million Native Americans were killed. But one, I'd like to know where that information came from. I'm not denying that this country did a lot of terrible things to Native Americans, and we really, really should, look back and say, okay, that should not have happened. Let's not repeat ourselves. But if you're going to show me a number of such magnitude, how do you know? How does anybody know that's how many people were actually killed? I get it. I get the horror of losing your culture and your history and everything else, and the way it was done was horrible, was brutal, was unjustified. But not every single European and every single person who moved west or came to the New World went out of their way to kill a Native American. Most of them probably tried to live with them just fine. Part of the problem, like most problems, is that Europeans have this tendency to see land not being used, so we're going to take it, or we're just going to use it. Now, it wasn't fair. Probably not. No, it wasn't. But at the same time, you're going to tell me the history of the conflicts between the two very different psychology when it comes to land and territory. Be honest about it. Because not every single Native American tribe, rose up and did anything. They tried to live with these crazy white people who wanted territory and land. But don't tell me that somehow every single pot of land is somehow sacred all of a sudden. It's funny how all the land all of a sudden becomes sacred, particularly when you want it. It's no different. It's not my mind. You just, okay, I get it. This land was yours before. Whose was it before you got here? Because I have never quite really believed that the Dakota have been here that long, or a lot of tribes have been here that long. And there was a point where there was very little people here. I'm just trying to say that, look, if you're going to tell me the history of the Native American people, tell me both sides. Be honest and tell me both sides of the story. Don't just tell me one story and convince me and think I'm just going to believe you because you said it. I don't believe you. Not without evidence, not without facts. I mean, not all Native American tribes got along with anybody. I'm sorry, they didn't. The Apaches didn't. The Comanches didn't. The Iroquois certainly didn't. The Ojibwe probably would have. They got along with the fur traders just fine. But they liked the fur traders because the fur traders, traded. And the Dakota were treated very unfairly in this state. How much does it do with this state? The Dakota War of 1862 never should have happened. People who were in charge, Europeans who were in charge, and the Americans who were in charge, royally screwed up. Now, granted, what the Native Americans were waiting for was coming. It was late. But after a while, it's like, enough is enough. The anger boiled over. They convinced Little Crow to do what Little Crow did not want to do in the first place, because he knew what was going to happen. And by the way, Little Crow was assassinated or killed, I will look at it, a year later, July 4th, 1863. But tell me the truth of these things. Show me both sides of the story on these things. Show me both sides of the story on this. Don't show me one side. Don't try to paint a picture that somehow the Native Americans were these angels who never did anything wrong. They had slaves. Okay? They had slavery in this continent, this hemisphere, long before Europeans got here. They were fighting wars with each other long before Europeans got here. They were doing a lot of things before Europeans got here. Ask the Aztecs what they were doing before the Europeans got here. But be honest about it. That's all I'm asking. All I'm asking is both sides of the same story be told. You're going to tell me that the 7th Cavalry did what it did under Custer. Tell me what the Native Americans did on both sides. Let me know the good and the bad. Because I hate telling you this, but Native Americans are no different, no better than me. No better. See, I don't mind Native American history. I find it fascinating. I find the tribes differently interesting. I find everything about them interesting. But I don't want to hear one side of the story. Now, I think the problem with this day and age is that we've all been made to feel guilty by crimes committed by people who have been dead for a long time. Very dead for a very long time. I wasn't here to cause this. Neither was anybody else watching this video. Okay? People who caused this are dead and are now have paid for their crimes. They paid for whatever they did. This is a very good book. I mean, there is another one out there. Not as big as this one. But this one is very good. I do like it. I mean, he talks about the battles that the Dakota and the Ojibwe had with each other. He talks about their history with each other. They did not like each other. The Dakota and the Ojibwe did not like each other. During the American Civil War, the U.S. government said, "Hey, Ojibwe, you want to help us fight the Dakota?" And the Ojibwe said, "You're going to give us weapons to fight our traditional enemy? Okay, hand over the rifle." But that's what they were going to do. And by the way, there was a small uprising of Ojibwe during the Civil War here too. It didn't last long, but I read a very brief little snippet about it. And there was a slight uprising. It's either before or after. But the U.S. government said, "Look, if you'll help us defeat the Dakota, we'll give you a gun. You can help us." The Dakota and the Ojibwe said, "Okay." So don't tell me they all lived in peace and harmony with each other. And I think that's what my problem is. I think that's why I get frustrated. It's not telling of the dark side of American history. And it's not telling of the good side of Native American history. It's leaving out the part that both sides have dark and good sides to their history when it comes to dealing with each other. I mean, I don't have a problem with Indigenous Peoples Day. In fact, I don't have a problem with it at all. I don't even really have a problem with Columbus Day, even though he didn't discover North America. The Vikings did. They discovered Newfoundland. The Vikings did. Columbus never set foot in America. He set foot in the Caribbean. Oh, again. Chocolate milk and root beer. But don't get me wrong, like I said it before, and I'll say it again. Just tell me both sides of the story. Don't tell me one side and say that that's the only side there is. Native Americans were no better or no worse than the Europeans at times. They were two very different cultures, mindsets, beliefs that clashed, and unfortunately one side was very badly beaten and very badly treated at points. And it's an unfortunate part of American history. You know what? I can't change it. Neither can you. All you can do is learn from it. Yeah, there's a lot of Native American culture and history is probably lost, but I can't find any books where I keep reading about Native American culture and history. It's like, okay, well, they're not all gone. You know, if it matters to you that much, do some research. Find people who might have been around for a long time. Do something, but don't whine about it. It's like the Holocaust. Jews don't whine about the Holocaust. What they do is they remember it and try to learn from it and try not to repeat it, or let it be repeated to them. I mean, I don't think there's a nation that has not had problems with itself. There's been no perfect country, no perfect nation, kingdom, state, whatever, ever that's ever existed. No no people has ever had a spotless history when it comes to other people. I mean, this is a different. You really got to feel sorry for him. He did not want to do it. He did not want to go to war. He knew exactly what was going to happen. He knew it was doomed to failure. Anyway, I have other books on Native Americans. I just brought the books that are related to where I live, Minnesota. Actually, I believe I read somewhere where the Cheyenne were sort of here. I can't. I have to find where that is, but I think I read somewhere where the Cheyenne were part of southern Minnesota. Maybe exactly in Iowa. But I study Native American history. Oh, what do we have here? Somebody's calling me. Whose number I don't recognize. Not answering. I don't know who you are. Turn off. Anyway, but study those things. But don't study one side of it just because it fulfills some PC correct history that may or may not be accurate in the first place. Discover both sides of the story. Write about both sides of the story. I don't trust any author who only tells one side of the story and paints one side all bad and the other side all good. That's not human. That's not human nature. That's not real people. That's fictional people. This is not Avatar. This is not Dances with Wolves. And by the way, the cavalry in Dances with Wolves should have been from Minnesota. But that's who they were fighting. They were fighting Minnesota cavalry regiments. Those cavalrymen should have been from Minnesota. By the way, the Dances with Wolves, when he's holding up the Spanish helmet, never should have happened. The Spanish didn't get that far. They didn't get that far up there. So that's an anachronism that shouldn't happen. The helmet's wrong. It's a good propaganda piece. It's an okay thing for some history buffs, but it's not actual history. I'm sorry. It's interesting. Fun movie. It's an interesting movie. It's not bad, but it's not history. Sort of like Braveheart. But anyway. But I digress. Study Native American history. Get to know Native American history. Don't be afraid of it. Get into it. Deep dive into it. Read all you can. Find what you can. But remember, you're going to discover that, they kind of remind me of somebody else. Yeah, other people. Sorry, but they do. When I read Native American history, all kinds of books, you know what I get the impression? Wow. Other than the culture, the kind of civilization they had, they sound human. Just like me. Just like everybody else. The problem with, anyway, I think part of the problem is that what happens shouldn't have happened. That's history. History is the stronger overcoming the weaker, and a lot of times it's doing it in a brutal, terrible way. It should not be ever done again, but learn from it. As I said, I don't have a problem with Indigenous Peoples Day. I think it's a good idea. I like it. I like studying Native American history, but I like studying Native American history honestly, and with an open mind to actually having my mind changed, or at least learning something I didn't know before. But if I hear a one-sided story, I don't listen to it, because it's a one-sided story. There's always more than one side to a story. But anyway, thank you for listening. Like, subscribe, comment, share. Let's jump right again. What else farther? I am still trying to figure out how to make this thing look nice. But anyway, behave yourselves, people. You know I'm not going to. I don't know how.